today's episode, I'll be giving my review and reaction to the 2013 film Snowpiercer. So let's dive right into Snowpiercer.
Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the dub cast.
Snowpiercer was released on July 29th, 2013. The genre is a post apocalyptic action thriller. The runtime is 2 hours and 6 minutes. The budget was $40 million. The director is Bong Joon-ho, who famously created the movie Parasite, which is an amazing movie. So I didn't really have that connection coming into the movie, but after the movie, that's a nice connection there. Parasite, one of my favorite movies of all time, amazing film. Would definitely recommend go watch that one. So that's a nice two movies potentially from this director. So who this movie stars: Chris Evans, Song Kang-ho, Tilda Swinton, Jamie Bell, Octavia Spencer, Ewan Bremner, Go Ah Sung, John Hurt, and Ed Harris. So if you're new to the channel, what I do is give my overarching review of the movie, then compare it amongst other movies that I've reviewed so far on the channel / the cast, and then finally I get into my thoughts and reactions of things that happen throughout the movie, give my takes on those. So starting it out with my overarching review, I enjoyed this movie thoroughly. I woke up on a Saturday morning, just watched this movie for 2 hours. It was great. There weren't too many twists and turns, but throughout the movie, but when they did throw them at you, they were a great twist, and they definitely added a layer of complexity to the movie that you weren't really thinking about before, but it wasn't so in your face, like, here's all these things that were happening you didn't see. It was kind of just more like at the end, things all started aligning and making sense. So Chris Evans did a fantastic job playing the main character, Curtis. It's just an interesting concept, this movie, for sure. You have the end of the world and people are relegated to one train. It gives me like a vibe of the TV show 100, where they're relegated to a space station. This time they're relegated to a train that has to keep moving throughout the world. So I thought that was a pretty interesting concept to play with, and I liked the way they executed it. So not only just that being the only group in the world basis, like the kind of apocalyptic basis, but also you have the idea of it being on. Sorry about that. I just blanked for a second. The idea of it being on a train, I thought that was interesting as well. Kind of mentioned that before, so that part was cool. I liked how they went from the journey of the movie, basically starting from the back of the train to the front of the train. I thought that was pretty cool. I like things like that progress like that. I don't know. I'm an organized person, so seeing like each car and all the different stuff in each car was interesting to me. So of course you have the overarching themes of rich versus poor and high class versus low class, as that is kind of the main themes and focus of this movie, essentially, in a grander scheme of things. Like I mentioned before, the twist at the end of the guy wanting to be outside, Nam Yoon wanting to be outside at the end with the bomb, and he thought that this train was too much, and not too much, but that they didn't need to be inside the train anymore. They could be outside of the train and live outside in the world again if they wanted to. And using the drugs as a bomb to get out, and also Gilliam being in allegiance with Wilhelm were pretty unpredictable in my opinion. I didn't really get any clues of either of those happening, so those were pretty surprising and pretty good twists in my opinion. So I thought those were both good reveals at the end. The ending I'm pretty okay with. I know they made a movie about it, but they made a show about it, but they also just killed hundreds of people to get outside. The train, I don't know how many people lived on that train throughout, but most of them are dead. Really, we only see 2 people alive at the end, so I feel like that was kind of, a depressing ending. Granted, the kid and Yona make it out, but you think there's other life on the Earth right now? I don't know how how they could possibly rebuild a society. Maybe I'm sure there's like more people alive in the train, or there's like a society out there like the 100 that they don't know about. I don't know. I'm not interested in watching the TV show. If I'm being honest, I just have too many things on my plate right now. I'm not diving into 4 seasons of Snowpiercer. I don't even know if it's the same thing. I know they have a show called Snowpiercer. So if there's not a show that if the show doesn't actually relate to the TV show, I mean to the movie, disregard this comment. But if it does, I'm not watching it. So yeah, maybe not the most ethical solution for you to keep moving on in society, just bombing the train outside, opening the gate, and then living outside with 2 people instead of the hundreds that you possibly had on the train. I guess it makes sense because you couldn't really ethically talk out Wilfred out of leaving the train and moving people outside. That wasn't really in the card, so I understand that part of it. So, also the polar bear was mad cute at the end. So there is other life on the Earth. Who knows about humans and remaking a society, whatever, that's down the road. But the polar bear was pretty cute at the end, so I will say that. Um, the speech by Wilhelm at the end was pretty epic. I thought he actually maybe convinced Curtis to take his place, to take up his mantle and run the train, run the engine, the sacred engine, as they say. The sets in the movie were pretty cool outside of the train. I like looking at that those dead cities, quote unquote, of just snowy, frozen over. And also, each of the train cars were pretty great, especially the higher class ones with the aquarium sticking out in my mind. There was another one too, I'm forgetting. The garden was pretty cool. So those train cars were pretty intense, or not intense, but pretty cool set pieces to be playing with while you're also throwing this revolution. And then outside, I really liked every time I liked outside. It looked pretty scenic, some pretty good scenic winter shots. So finally, the classic antagonist of finally getting to Wilhelm, but he has to do what he has to do. Trope, he's not really a truly bad guy. He just believes in his way of running things, and he has to run the engine the way he does because if he doesn't, then everyone dies, and he has to set up a class system because that's the only way it would work. So I don't know if I really agree with him. Obviously, he's the antagonist of the movie, and you're meant to believe that. So I mean, I don't really know what the solution here was. I don't even know what even was Curtis's plan to take once he takes the engine. Then what? Like they have guns and stuff. They have way more men than you. I don't know. His flaw was believing in the class system. In my opinion, I don't think that really ever works. There could just be a functioning society of people that are all equal. I guess naturally in human tendency is to just form class systems, and some people are lower than others. I don't know. I think it could make it work if there's an equality and everyone can be on the same page. But what do I know? So overall, I thought this was a pretty strong movie. I would recommend this movie to anyone. Really, I thought this was a pretty compelling story. It's not too much action in your face. There is a decent amount of action, but it's not so much like something crazy where everyone's dying every 2 seconds. Like there is parts of it that are important about class and our class systems and being on the bottom class and trying to make your way to the top, and also this post-apocalyptic world and how those two mingle together. So I really think that there are more aspects of it than just the action movie. So I think also strong plot, strong characters. So my overall score on Snowpiercer, I'm going with an 8.4. Believe it's a pretty strong movie. Definitely second or third tier. I really enjoyed it. I really like Chris Evans in this movie. Seems like when he switches the pace off Captain America, and I did like him as Captain America, but all those movies that I've seen of him and not being Captain America are pretty good. This, Knives Out, that's about it, but he's 2 for 2. So yeah, would recommend this to everyone. What did you guys think? Is that a too high of a score, too low of a score? What would you rate it? Now let's compare this 8.4 against other movies in the Dubcast world so far. So let's pull up the Dubcast graphic. So Snowpiercer comes in at number 8 of 28 movies ranked so far. This is our first 8.4 on the list. No real movies on here that I would directly compare it to. To be honest, it's not really an action film in my opinion. I think there's more going on, but there's not really anything else that I'm going to compare it side to side with. It fell just short of the first Spider-Verse movie and the first Dune. I just think in both Dune and Spider-Man 1 Spider-Verse or Into the Spider-Verse, both those really have epic graphic things going on. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has the epic graphics and all the animated stuff, and then Dune just has insane set pieces, especially even in the first one. So that's where we'll leave it at that. just point one under those. Those they edge it out. So with that, we'll get off the Dubcast graphic and get into my thoughts and reactions throughout the film. So starting out the movie, we have the introduction about global warming taking over the planet while the pre-credits play. Thought this was an efficient way to set the background of the movie. Global warming, is definitely an impact. Could potentially be taking over right now, and we just don't really care about it. But I don't know. It doesn't. The global warming thing doesn't really come back again. It's just a set for them to explain why they're now on a train around the world. So once they disperse a chemical to try and combat the global warming, it freezes all life and everyone becomes extinct. And it's like, whoa, that's quick. Everyone's just done. I'm wondering if there's an expanded universe where there are people out there still. We don't really have an answer on that. The guess is no, but you never know. So only people aboard the Rattling Ark, that is the name of the train, are the last humans alive. They don't really say a number, unless I missed it, of how many people are actually on this train, but that's it. Everyone on this train, you're it for society, that's it. So we quickly come to learn that this train is set up with a class system. The guards have quick, bad impulses. They smash a couple when they're asking for violin. They both want to go, but only one of them can go. And then when they ask for both of them to go, boom, boom, you got to take our orders on some Hunger Games type shit. So they're planning a revolution. Curtis is our main guy. That's Chris Evans. He's got a man inside in the prison car, he believes, and they get messages from him in a protein block, which these protein blocks actually represent a lot in this movie. They're these small little blocks that are just protein. That's all they get to eat. While the people in the upper class, they believe, get steaks and get nice dinners and eat whatever they want. The people in the back of the train are relegated to these little purple protein blocks that really don't look good at all. But they need to find the one that has these little messages in them where they can unscroll the message and read something out. Usually it has one word that is important to what they're doing. So once the couple has been, dispatched and they've given out their protein blocks for everyone to eat, a woman in yellow comes to the back of the train. She takes two kids with her. The father of one of the kids throws a shoe at her and he hits her with the shoe. So, of course, that's not going to go over well in this society where the guards have supreme power and the front of the car has insane power. So his punishment is he has to stick his hand outside in the freezing air. And at this point, I was like, what the fuck? Because we just learned that this air is unsurvivable. So I was like, is he going to die? No, they have a very tight clasp on your arm. So you stick it out, it's clasped, and then your arm comes back stiff, frozen. Yeah. This is not great. He's gonna have to cut that shit off. So this woman gives a speech about how the back of the train is bad, demeaning them and telling them to stay in place, don't try and test anything. So of course, they're gonna test it, but the engine is quote unquote sacred and the arm is frozen and then cut off. So it's really weird how they worship the engine. I'm not gonna try and judge them because I don't know what I would do if I was on a train with people for the rest of my life and be like, that's basically is our God, because there's nothing the only thing keeping us from being frozen right now is that train engine. So maybe that's where they get it from. But it seems like they've been kind of sold a bill of goods by Wilford, the overarching leader of the train. He's the one who runs the engine, who's created this company, who created the train, who had the idea for the train. So it seems like he's kind of sold them that his train is the best and they should be very thankful and they should almost bow down to him. Although when we meet him later, it doesn't really seem like that's the case. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? So once everything is settling down a little bit, Curtis is taking his chance now. He rushes the guards. He told Edgar, his number 2 in command, that he doesn't think the guards actually have bullets, because if they did, they would be shooting them and, shooting them to disperse them, make them more believe in the power and authority, or just to scare them off. But they've never done that. I think they've run out of bullets since a couple years ago when there was another riot. So they go now. They have a rod prepared made out of barrels, which they somehow acquired, and they have this huge rod of barrels. All of them get together, shove it at the guards, shove it at the door. They need to ram the door in order to keep them open because the train cars have doors that shut automatically every 4 seconds. So once they ram the door, they're in. So they make it to the next train car, which most of them have never even made it out of the back of the train, and I believe there's one or two cars in the back of the train. But so while they're in this next train, their plan is to wake up the designer of the security system. His name is Nam Goong, and we don't really learn why these people were just asleep. Maybe they're in like prison and they just sent them to sleep. I know in the 100 they had people just go to sleep for mad long. Maybe they're the people that were like reserved for creating the next society. Not sure. I might have missed that part. So we learned a little bit about Nam Goong. He doesn't speak English. He's a drug addict, and they're going to give him and his daughter 1 cube of chronal every door they open. So every door they open from the back of the train to the front, they get one little cube of the drug, which is a hallucinogenic, I believe. So we learned, this is kind of an interesting way to introduce this character, especially once you learn what he's actually using these drugs for at the end. Looking back on this, but he just sells it well. They do sniff it. The whole movie you're thinking that they're just these drug addicts, but they do have a bigger plan. So I'm wondering how long they were planning this for. I don't know. There is some questions to be answered, I believe. So they're moving forward door by door. They find windows with that one of those snowy cities that I was talking about earlier. It's just really scenic, really nice looking. I like the winter aesthetic. And then they move into the protein block making section, which they find out that their protein blocks are made by bugs. Curtis finds this out. He doesn't want to tell other people. I'm not sure why he didn't want to tell other people. That maybe it would fire them up even more. But maybe he just didn't want to deal with that extra factor right now as they're making their way into the cars, making their way into each car. I will mention that something else that comes up again in a theory of mine. So this guy has been making protein blocks, and they just are like, why do you do this? Who do you make them for? He's like, I have no idea. And just kind of like mindlessly is doing things, because there are people later on that are mindlessly doing work for the people as well. So I believe there's some sort of drug that they're using to control the mind or will of these people, because it doesn't really seem like they have free will. They're just kind of doing their job and that's it. They don't really ask questions. They just kind of do whatever. So I thought this guy, when you meet him, you're like, what's really going on here? But when I started connecting dots after the movie, that is kind of popping out in my head right now while I think of this scene. So keeping it moving, we are introduced to Yona, who is the daughter of Nam Goong. He said he wouldn't get up without her. She's very obviously younger than him, being his daughter. She apparently is quote unquote clairvoyant and knows what's beyond every single gate. So the next door opened. She says, don't open it, but it's too late. They open it. It has a lot of men in masks with weapons. And before they are engaged in battle, the men in masks cut open a dead fish, attacking them. And then it's a fight where Curtis smashes a lot of people with an axe. This is where your action scenes come from. This was the fish thing was really odd to me, and it seems like these higher class people just kind of live a weird life. Like they have weird beliefs and stuff, and they're kind of, we see it in a couple of cars with the education car with the kids. Like there's just seems to be some sort of brainwashing happening here and some sort of weird ritualistic stuff that could be delved into deeper, I guess. But it's battle between the bottom class and the people in the masks that have clearly been sent by the front people to do war here. See who comes out on top. It's pretty good for the people on bottom. They kill a lot of people, they move forward, but they make it to a bridge, which represents a new year. Every year they make it to this bridge, it's the new year. There's also, well, that comes up later, so I won't say it. So they have, the train tracks are not cleared fully. They have impacts with ice that has covered the track. There are 3 different impacts, and each time the train jumps back and forth, I thought maybe the train was going to go overboard, but no, it just somehow bounces up off these impacts and just bounces right back onto the track. Kind of crazy that if one of those didn't happen, this whole movie ends and the society's over and there's no more humans. I guess it's like that in every kind of post-apocalyptic world, right, where something bad could just happen to anyone. But those impacts are pretty scary, especially since they're in the middle of a fight. They kind of have to stop while they hit these impacts. So after the bridge that they're on, there's a long tunnel where they go in the dark, but the people in the front, people from the front of the car with the masks on, have night vision goggles, and they can just murk them if they want to. So this is kind of OP. I guess there weren't really a lot of. I don't know if there's a lot of windows in the back of the car because it doesn't seem like they really knew that this was going to happen. That would make a lot of sense as to why they wanted to move up and stuff, and why they were so mesmerized looking outside. So maybe I just missed that part as well. But essentially, this is where the people in the front start beating up on the people in the back. The people in the back had their chance, had their day. Now it's the people in the front's turn with the masks. They go on a killing rampage, killing a lot of people, including, first the lower class people get the Asian guy who's been using a speaker, unnamed I think, but he was just one of the big faces of the front of the car essentially. And then unfortunately, our boy Edgar is killed after he goes after the girl who's been announcing stuff. That's Curtis. So Edgar is being held up, and then there's the girl Mason, something Mason, where Curtis has the chance to either go after her and grab her and take her hostage, or go and save Edgar. He unfortunately chooses to go get the girl and not get the girl in like the romantic sense, but grab her to be hostage, and leaves Edgar to die. R.I.P. Edgar. So bullshit, man. I liked Edgar. This is only like halfway through the movie at this point, so I do appreciate that they were willing to kill off the main characters on the side that we're rooting for pretty frequently, honestly. So Edgar was a pretty good guy. I haven't said a lot about him, but he was kind of always like that second in command, younger guy who wanted to go and do things, get things done right away. But Curtis is like, no, we gotta chill, bro. We learn a little bit about Edgar's backstory later, but R.I.P. brother. Yeah, just a tough loss there. So also a lot of deaths. We're down to the last people of society, and we're just murking each other. I think maybe there's thousands on this train, so that's the only positive. But if there's not, we're really losing a lot of numbers here. So they come to find out that the people on the front of the car have been watching Curtis. Mason tells them this. She cuts a deal with him to make it to the front and live. If she lives and they kill Wilford, then the deal's done and there's no more harsh blood between anyone, which this kind of, looking back on it, was kind of a bullshit deal for Curtis. But she's just spewing out of her mouth, trying to get any deal she can done to just be alive, because in her head it's probably the lower class citizens could just kill me anytime, I gotta just make a deal, whatever, but she was never really gonna honor that, was she? So another character that I haven't really talked about is this man named Gilliam. He doesn't have an arm or a leg, and he's kind of the face and voice of the revolution, I think, really. I mean, Curtis is kind of the guy who's out there on the field doing it, but Gilliam is the man behind the scenes pulling the strings. So he's been why do I keep saying Chris? Curtis. He's Curtis's mentor in this whole thing. But they decide here that they're going to need to leave Gilliam behind. Obviously, with one arm and one leg, he's not really much help. They're down on numbers. For some reason, they really go with a smaller party here. They only take like 6 or 7 people up as they keep moving to the front of the car. Thought this was an interesting strategy. I think strength in numbers is always good, even if they want to look after the back. But there's nobody really alive in the back, so I don't know what that was all about. But Gilliam is now left behind to tend to the people in the back there. He wasn't really gonna be much help anyway, but maybe we could use more strong people to help in the front of the car. Anyways, they keep it moving. They make it into the garden, an aquarium car. That was one of my favorite cars. Just have a straight aquarium in the train. It's really, you don't really see, I don't know if I've ever even seen an aquarium in a train like that, where it's, you have your hallway of the train, but then the kind of surroundings of it is just an aquarium. I thought that was a really cool set piece. The gardening was cool as well, where they build plants and stuff. So yeah, this train is absurd. Wilford must have been rich, so rich. And the woman Mason treats them to the treat of sushi, which is only served twice a year, apparently, to the people on the train. But right away, we know that the lower class people have been eating protein blocks this whole time. So in comparison, eating fish or anything is like a delicacy to them. This must have been the best meal of their life. And it's also just shows the discrepancies between the lower and the top class, because the lower class gets these protein blocks made of bugs every day, and while the other people on the top get to eat sushi, get to eat real meat, chicken, things like that. So the lady is going to try and take her piece of the sushi as well, Mason, but she has to eat the protein block. That was a good grill by Curtis. He says, no, you eat this. And so she's got to eat the protein block. No sushi for you. Respectable. Come back there, sort of. So now this is where they make it to the education car, and they see the people in the education car have seen the sons from earlier on in the movie, Timmy and I forget the other one's name, that were taken before, but they are no longer here. The kids, while they're just chilling in the classroom, all worship Wilford, and they sing a song about him, the engine, and they hold up W's for Wilford. When they look outside, they see the people that tried to make an escape out into the world, and they've been frozen in place. So it's kind of like a monument, like don't be stupid, don't go outside, don't try and survive the cold because you're not going to be able to. So this is where one of the craziest things happen. This guy's handing out eggs for a Happy New Year. This bald gentleman, but it's a surprise attack with machine guns under the eggs in the basket. So the teacher has a gun. Where it's just like, what is happening right now? But it's crazy. People all around the place are getting shot. Andrew, the father of one of the sons who went, the single father who got his arm cut off, he dies. Gilliam in the back of the train is executed. They show him the live stream of that. And in retaliation, Curtis decides, you know what, Mason doesn't get to live after all this. He killed all of his people, so she's going to have to pay the ultimate price as well. She's going to die, so this was just a crazy scene. But also, we were told there was no bullets in the back of the train, so maybe, these were just saved for an important time, but I have to call it out. What were where were these bullets in the back of the train when they man rushed them with 90 people? Wouldn't that be your point of contention? Not 40 cars in. I guess there are maybe layers of protection. Just saying, kind of poor strategy in my opinion. Anyways, a lot of people are dead here. There's only really a couple left. It's Curtis, the woman Tanya, whose son has been taken, and then this other guy who's unnamed, who's just a beast. He's like this smaller guy who's just hitting people. He's a ninja basically, and just murking people. So that's really their team left at this point. So we have the team who executed Gilliam coming now to shoot Curtis from behind, and this was weird because you see how big the train is, while the team who executed Gilliam's all the way in the back of the train with like a machine gun sniper kind of thing, and Curtis is in the front with like a pistols machine gun kind of thing, and they're shooting at each other. I'm like, what about the windows? You shoot the windows, the air is going to get in, and you're going to freeze and die. Like, these people have no regard for this remaining of society. It's like, guys, we need to at least have like 10 people walking out of here, or we're done. Like, there's no more human society. But I guess human legacy doesn't matter. I mean, we kind of fucked the world up anyway, so it is what it is. So, yeah, the guy who executed Gilliam is a savage. He has no regard for human life. He kills a passenger, one of the people from the front, with no remorse, and then he kills one of his own security guards. He doesn't want people standing in his way and are questioning him. It's this kind of pseudo general guy who's probably the second in command to Wilford. He's a psycho though, so he just right away we know that guy is not to be messed with. So once they are kind of trapped in this spa, this guy comes all the way from the back, makes it up to where Curtis, Tanya, and the kid are. So he kills Tanya, he kills the kid, and Yona and her. I also forgot to mention Yona and her father are alive as well, but they end up taking out the guy, kind of knocking him out briefly. I believe it was supposed to be dead, but we're supposed to believe he's dead, but he's not actually dead. So it's down to just Yona, Namgung, and Curtis. I keep saying Chris because it's Chris Evans. Curtis at the end. So they keep getting more and more chronal, especially when they make their way through the upper class trains where there's like a bar and a party scene, and those places look kind of sick. I would want to be on one of those train cars. Awesome train, just partying up, living it up. Some girls dancing. It's a vibe in there. I want to go, but too late. The train's dead and exploded. So yeah, they keep picking up more and more chrono because that's like the party drug, obviously, in the party train car. So at this point, I was like, how much of this stuff do you need? Like, you're that down bad where you need to sniff one of these cubes every hour, and they're these cubes just like one sniff and you throw them out. Obviously, there's a bigger plan that I missed. So Curtis, once they make it to the final gate of opening to the engine where Wilford is, he's kind of frustrated because he wants Namgung to open that gate for him, but Namgung wants to open the other gate not the other gate, but a different gate that leads to the outside, the only window out of the train, or the only gate out of the train. His whole plan this whole time was to bomb it, but that's not for now because I'm skipping over some stuff that happened before. So while Curtis smokes this last cigarette on the planet outside of the gate, which this was kind of a depressing last cigarette on the world, but it is what it is, he tells the tale of his back section and the back of the train section. So when they all boarded the train, the back had no food, no water. They had to eat their own people, which is really unfortunate. At first you're like, whoa, how did this happen? And, Curtis survived all this. Even babies they had to eat. And this is a funny line where he's just like, the babies tasted the best, man. It's just like a passing line, but okay, I guess that's something that happened. So we come to find out the big storyline that happened between Gilliam, Edgar, and Curtis. So Gilliam ended up saving Edgar from men with knives. They all wanted to come up and eat Edgar because he was a baby, and babies taste the best, right? So instead of that happening, Gilliam offers an arm and a leg for them to eat, and he says, "Eat one of these if you're so hungry." And we come to find out that Curtis was one of those men with the knives. He killed Edgar's mother. Edgar will never know that probably because he'd probably be pissed if we found out. And now Edgar's dead. So other people started following suit after that, offering their limbs up for people to eat rather than killing people, which sounds crazy, but when you're in dire straits, man, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, it's just nuts. Obviously, a very bad situation where you don't have a suitable food source, especially in the back of the train, where they didn't feed them protein blocks till like a month or two into the process. It sounded like. So, yeah, just a really fucked up story, and you kind of turn a little bit on Curtis, like, whoa, what is this guy really about? Because he was doing this stuff, but now he's changed his life around. It's kind of a makes you scratch your head a little bit, wonder really what is good here. So Namgung thinks that they can survive the outside world after he sees the plane's wing and tail peek out on the new year. Back in the day, they could only really see the tail tipping out, and now they can see the wings and the back of the plane tipping out of the plane crash spot where they are on the bridge. So now, having seen that, they know the snow is melting a little bit. They think all it takes is one little tap, and they'll be able to live free in the world again without being dead from freezing cold temperatures. So he hasn't been stalking that chronal to get high. He's been trying to make a bomb to get to the outside world. If they light the chronal on fire, it's highly flammable. They'll blow that gate right open, walk outside. That's Numgang's what is his name? Namgung. His and Yona's plan is to do that and just say fuck it, Namgung. Sorry, for them to get outside. Just say fuck it, live amongst the society, and they'll make it alive and figure it out. So those kind of, I didn't really believe in that plan at all, but do what you will, I guess. It's like, would you rather be stuck in a plane and live, or be outside in the world and have a chance of dying, but also have a chance of living, not winning? We kind of see this play out in the 100. I mean, this is I didn't have a movie comparison, but the TV show The 100 is very similar to this. They send him down to Earth, so it's supposedly uninhabitable, but then it is inhabitable. Actually, that show came out at like the same time as this movie, so stolen IP. I don't know. So while this is happening, Namgung and Yona get kind of caught up in stuff. They open the gate for Curtis. He's invited inside for dinner with Wilford. This is where we see the woman from the beginning in the yellow, seemingly Wilford's girl that he, is with. Not sure if it was his daughter, maybe, but it's them two. It's Wilford and her in the engine car, which is very small. She's got a gun pointed at Curtis the whole time they're interacting. Curtis offers to trade places, or Wilford offers to trade places with Curtis. He says, "Fuck you." That was a funny moment. We find out that Gilliam was in on it the whole time with Wilford trying to create more space for the tail section. That was the plan, was to do a revolution, to have a failed revolution where they would kill off people from the tail section, and then they'd have more space for those people in the back to live instead of being cramped and overpopulated and having to make less food probably, and just cut down on overall costs and everything. So that was the original plan. Wilhelm and Wilford had conversations late at night on the phone, and we find out that Wilford's been having people killed for population control. Curtis is all freaked out. His world's all fucked up. At this point, he's gone so far to try and make it to the engine his whole life, and then just for it to lead to this, where Gilliam and Wilford were in cahoots the whole time. It's like, damn, bro. His whole world's shaken. Understandably so. And so while all this is happening, the party people who Yona and Namgung took the chrono from come after him. they really want to blow this gate now, get out of here, not have to worry about these people coming after them with weapons and knives and stuff. But there's this little bridge that Nam Goong's able to fight people off for now. So Wilford has been writing the messages the whole time, we find out, which I was pretty surprised about. At this point, I'd kind of forgotten about the little messages they got, but it's been him writing it the whole time. He writes one to Curtis. For blood, he wants Curtis to take his place as the leader of the engine. Now, I'm not sure if this is a legitimate offer or not. I believe it was, because they say they were watching Curtis this whole time. What would be the reason for watching Curtis this whole time? He's a potential prospect. He led the people in the back. He can lead the whole thing. So I thought for a second, Curtis was going to actually do this, because at this point his whole world's been shaken. Like, Gilliam was a liar. Granted, Gilliam did save Edgar from him, but it's like, at that point, what is even real? Might as well just be the fucking leader of the free world. Might as well be in the top power position. You fought from the bottom. I mean, maybe you could help tail people out more. I don't know. Thought it was at least worth considering, but it's not really going to happen, because Nam Goong and Yona need the matches from Curtis to light the bomb, as he had the cigarette, smoked the cigarette with the matches. Now they need his matches to light the bomb, light the colonel on fire. So they come into the car that Curtis and Wilford are having a conversation in. Yona uncovers under the train car, and in one of the compartments, there are the two kids from the beginning, Timmy and Andy. I forget what the other kid's name is, but so these are the other people I was talking about that are brainwashed. Like, these are 5-year-old kids, and they're just working 24/7 all day on these trains, making sure that the train keeps going. So they must have been brainwashed by something, or just fed good food or something, given a cookie. I don't know what it was. Their hair, they're shirtless. They're basically buzz cuts. They have no personality. They're just seemingly dead inside. So there must have been something that was given to them to make them more relaxed and just do the job and not think about anything else. So once those kids are discovered, Andy's the other kid. He comes out of his compartment. He doesn't listen to Curtis at all. Curtis keeps trying to, Curtis fucks up the engine. He's had enough of this whole thing. He's trying to make this train stop, but Andy comes out of his compartment and makes sure that the train's going to keep going. So clearly trained or brainwashed on something in order to keep the train moving. So finally they do end up setting off the bomb. It blows up the whole entire train. The train's taken off the tracks. Multiple train cars are just splayed over a winter snow setting, and assumingly a bunch of people die. This is the end of civilization, right? The train is all mangled. Cars all apart, are just going everywhere. It's over, right? But no, we have 2 survivors, Yona and Timmy. The first kid make it out of the train to see a polar bear. All life isn't extinct after all. So a little bit of a hopeful message at the end there. But I hope more people survive, because if it was really just an annihilation of society, that seems pretty stupid to me. I'm going to go watch the trailer for this TV show, see what it's about. I hope everyone did survive. Hopefully it's the same universe. I've been talking out of my ass this whole podcast. But that's going to wrap up Snowpiercer. I already mentioned my thoughts in the end. That was, it is what it is. You have to have some way to end this off. So that'll wrap up Snowpiercer. Thought it was a pretty strong movie. Liked it a lot. What did you guys think of Snowpiercer? Movie reviews coming up. We have Black Swan, which that'll be fun to talk about. And then besides that, more movie content coming as always. We have our weekly NFL stream, just happened, I believe, because I'm going to be posting this a little bit after I film this. Survivor weekly episodes as well. College basketball, I'm brewing up a show, but that might be a less frequent thing and just a once a month thing until things kind of calm down, because we're doing Survivor, we're doing movie reviews, we're doing NFL every week. But we'll see what happens with that. So basic message, stay tuned for more content. I'm always going to be posting stuff, always posting more casts and stuff on the channel, on YouTube. I'm trying to do more on social media as well. Got a lot of love from my TikTok family on the movie reviews. Posted the first 25 scores in succession. Nice little montage there. Not in the show succession, just in rapid succession. Score. So the lovely people of TikTok gave me positive reviews. So go check that one out if you want to. And that's going to wrap it up. So as always, be easy and don't blow up any trains.